Hello everyone and welcome back to a best of 3 series of professional StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Zerg versus Protoss, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Oxide. Now over the last couple of months, I've mentioned this in previous videos, I think the early game of Zerg versus Protoss has become a little bit stale. More often than not, the first 8 minutes or so of every single match is just going to be that Stargate opener into Triple Nexus, and since there's not really that much that the Zerg player can do about it, most of the time we just see the Zerg player sitting back and happily macroing up as well. The thing is, today I'm featuring 2 pro gamers who, already by the way, Zerg is just going straight on over towards the third base. Not even, letting the natural expansion there get blocked. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. But these 2 players, even though they have climbed through the ranks over the years, they have never really lost their touch to Bronze League. So spawning here in the bottom left-hand corner of Oxide, playing with the orange Zerg drones, proudly displaying Ukraine right there on the main hatch, we have none other than Bly and his opponent in the opposite corner from Taiwan, actually still going for a forge. We're looking at none other than Haas's main Nexus. Now, okay, let's talk about this. Normally the reason why you want to skip the natural entirely is so you don't get cannon rushed, right? So cannon rushes have 2 advantages for the Protoss. The first one, obviously, is that you can kill your opponent's expansion, right? That's pretty good. But the second reason why having photon cannons over here is pretty sweet is you can sort of like soft contain the Zerg on top of that ramp on one base. Bly wanted to avoid this scenario by going for a third hatch right away, because right now Haas sure can end on, he can add on a couple of photon cannons here. But at the very least, it's not going to be a contain inside of the main base of the Zerg. That being said, right, so how much is he going to commit here? Haas could just, or Bly could just cancel the hatch. Although I think he's going to let it finish. Yeah, he's trying to see if he can force more resources here out of the Protoss. If it's just going to be 1 photon cannon, 6 Zerglings are going to be able to deal with it. Second photon cannon comes up right now as well. He is obviously getting some larvae here too. A Zealot was also produced by Haas. Alright. So 2 minutes into this game, we already have an unorthodox scenario. Is this really that great, though, for our Protoss? So we have 8 Zerglings here very soon. We have 2 Zealots out already. So 2 Zealots are 200 minerals. These are 150 minerals each, so that's 300, plus the pylon over here. Zerg is going to end up losing the hatchery, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so that's 300 minerals plus the cost of the drone. That's 50 minerals. I think, yeah, big picture, even though it will definitely show up as like more resources lost here for the Zerg player than for the Protoss, I actually think this is totally fine. So another hatchery is coming up right now for Bly. He's mining a little bit of gas after getting that link speed started already. Honestly, you probably shouldn't have made these 8 Zerglings. Yeah, the links are not really going to be able to achieve too much. Anyways, hatchery is already gone. Sentry right now comes up as a follow-up. So already this early game is a complete mess. Messy in a good way, though. Haas has decided to also now start up the +1 infantry, or the +1 ground weapons. See, I don't even know what the upgrade is called anymore. We don't really see that one early on anymore in Zerg versus Protoss. Can he get a drone? Nicely done right there by Haas. Zealot, though, does have to pay for this with its life. So, if it's that great, I don't really know. Center here gonna tickle that Overlord. So normally, right, we see that Stargate opener into Void Ray, and then really quickly, usually, into the +1 flyer upgrade as well, when the Cybercore is done researching the Warp Gate upgrade. In this particular game, I don't think that's gonna happen. So he sees right here, the Zerg that is, that there's already a Sentry as well as an Adept on top of that ramp. Not really a whole lot you're gonna be able to get done with that trio of units. Another gateway is coming up. Haas not actually going for any kind of tech route just yet. So we'll see how that goes. Now, obviously, the hatchery is gone. The 2 photon cannons and the pylon are just sort of going to chill out here, which is fine. I don't think Zerg really has to address it at this point. I mean, you don't really want to address it until a little bit later. Can he actually get maybe the Sentry? Okay. Is he going to be able to get the Stalker? Okay, we'll get the Stalker at the cost of like 4 Zerglings, it seems. Not really that amazing for the Zerg, I don't think, because in the early game, he's probably going to be fine anyway. Okay, so Twilight Council is a follow-up. What is Haas going to go for? I probably assume it's going to be Dark Templar. Although he's already gone for so many sentries. Normally with sentries, you kind of expect a robo facility as well to add on some immortals or something along those lines. But honestly, ground early games for Protoss are really, really uncommon these days. Like, we barely see it. Trap is playing it every once in a while, which is kind of funny because Trap is widely considered to be the best Protoss this year. And Trap doesn't play Stargates as much as as much as, like, for example, the other Protoss players do. So you'd imagine most people would you know, copy someone like Trap a little bit more often. I kind of like this. Look at that. The Adepts normally would get surrounded here by a bunch of Zerglings, but they're chilling by the photon cannons from earlier, and they're definitely not going to be attacked over here. Alright. So there's the Robo facility. What are we doing with this? So we're just going to go for the charge upgrade? Bly right now is scouting this as well. So what does Bly know at this point? He knows that there's a Twilight Council. Now when there's a Twilight, most of the time there's also a Robo. Third Nexus starts up here. A lot of this really is sending so much conflicted information to the Zerg. So a photon cannon rush into a sentry, into multiple sentries, into a chrono on a Twilight Council. So you expect with that many sentries that it's probably Zealots. Then maybe Immortals as a follow-up as well. But then there's a third Nexus. Already, Bly is making 15 roaches here. Probably anticipating a 2-base push here from the Protoss, but that's not what's happening. Maybe he now has to kind of commit to this himself. I'm not 100% sure. So he's currently sitting at 46 workers. Natural and third base are not connected with creep yet, which is a little bit tricky. Bly apparently, even though he did see the Twilight Council, not too concerned with any kind of Dark Templar, which personally I would be concerned by, or I would be concerned with the entire time if I would be going up against Haas. No lair, no spore crawlers, no detection here at all for Bly. Either way, he is just making a ton of units. Yeah, so it's just going to be a Hatchery Tech, Ravager, Ling, Roach push. There is a photon cannon over there, which is fantastic together with that shield battery, obviously. The battery overcharge can be super good. Charge is done as well. I actually think I like this. Yeah. Going home, it's probably not the worst idea. I'm not sure, though. So Haas only sitting on 2 gases as well. Ignoring the gases over in the natural, which I also, once again, kind of love. Okay, so a scout over there does confirm... well, that there's no probes. Okay, well, he's going to try and move up this ramp sentry. Not paying attention just yet, but he is going to be able to get that force field down regardless. Second force field also not going to happen. He tried timing that perfectly with the bile coming down, but he just barely missed it. One of the Immortals there does get surrounded, which is huge. A couple of Zealots already waiting for more Zerglings over inside of the main base. Protoss army right now on the hunt. Getting the Immortal here was nice, but other than that, this fight has been rather lackluster, right? Ooh, especially since Bly right now is actually kind of being trapped in there. This is the advantage of those force fields, right? You can't really leave very easily. Okay, he wants to try and see if he can maybe kill some of those units, but Haas really not too concerned. Great set of force fields there. He's gonna trap some of that Zerg army, and Haas easy peasy cleans this up. Despite the fact that he only had 1 Immortal there. He does want to go back home as well, though, because he knows that there's probably gonna be some more Zerg reinforcements on the back of this. 1 photon cannon over here, so I think Haas can run the probes on over in this direction relatively easily. Reinforcing Zealot should, at the very least, keep these links occupied for another little while. At the same time, ooh, that pylon from earlier from the cannon rush, it's being used as a warp-in location. It takes forever for these Stalkers to finish up, but this is still a very scary Protoss army. Prism has now also joined the fray. Man, that second Immortal would have made all the difference, though. Like, 1 more Immortal here would have absolutely... well, I think Zerg actually may still get murdered. Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, if there was a second Immortal, I'm pretty sure the Zerg would have already been dead. Still fairly certain that Zerg is dying. Though the Queens obviously are helping out here as well. Lynx once again on the other side of the map, but that Photon Cannon now has 8 confirmed kills to its name. Immortal man, come on. There you go. Already 16 kills on that bad boy. It's very good, of course, against roaches in particular. GG is cold anyway, but that was a very action-packed early game. Alrighty, so there we go. Game number 2 is on Lightshade. Now, the reason I think why we don't see this too often at the pro level is because of the fact that if you, say hypothetically speaking, right? You can create a perfect artificial intelligence for Zerg early game and a perfect artificial intelligence for Protoss early game as well. They'll probably never be aggressive. They'll probably always be macroing up, knowing very well that it's extremely unlikely to get any sort of damage done, right? And this is... yeah, this is the way that a lot of the pro gamers approach the matchup, right? Like StarCraft 2 is a spreadsheet, and you can play a perfect game every single time. And some players seemingly are able to do so, like, for example, Serral, and then also, for example, Dark and Reyna, right? The top-level guys, they're extremely good at not taking damage early on. But pretty much everyone below that is definitely susceptible to that shenanigans that Haas is throwing at him. Like, I would actually like to see Haas do this exact same build order against someone like Serral. I think Serral probably has the best Zerg versus Protoss in the world. world. He's at like, I don't know, 85+% win rate over the last few years. It's kind of ridiculous. I would like to see how someone like Cero approaches that particular situation, because he'll probably just salvage it and, you know, he would definitely not go for a Roach Ravager push, right? He would definitely be droning up until 66 workers as quickly as possible. Full 3-base saturation, just relentless scouting. Probably really quick Overlord speed as well. Anyways, we can hypothesize all we want. Haas has once again decided to go for a Forge. He's also going high ground wall off, which in my opinion is really bad. But I guess he really wants to do another Photon Cannon Rush? It's just a classic hatch gas pool right here, by the way. Ovi has not gotten across the map yet. Bly, okay. He did pull a couple of workers, so that's something. This is... He wanted to complete the wall off here. Create like a complete nuke. Alright, we're gonna create a secondary wall off instead. My god, how many pylons are you gonna put down, my man? Alright, about that many? He just needs like 1 or 2 photons to finish up, I suppose. Although Bly, you know, wasn't born yesterday. He knows exactly what he's supposed to do in these sort of scenarios, I suppose. Apparently the best counter to a couple of photon cannons is 2 spines. So I love this though, right? Pylons have way more health than photon cannons do, and they build pretty quickly too. So these photon cannons over here are perfectly shielded between a row of pylons. The real question right now though is whether or not these spine crawlers are going to be enough. So this photon cannon, okay, does get cancelled at the last possible moment. How is this going to play out? So it's 2 spine crawlers versus 2 photon cannons. The spines are done. There's quite a few Zerglings right now too. Do you not want to commit here with the Lynx? I feel like you want to commit here with the Lynx. No? Okay, no, he's fine. Oh, that second one is actually out of range of pretty much everything. So that one is not really achieving anything. Bly, significantly better at the game than me, as you can already tell. I would have lost... I would have cleaned it up faster, I'm pretty sure. But I would have lost a lot more units. Okay, 1 spine crawler does go down. It's sacrificing itself to buy a little bit of time for the second spine to root once again. Retargeting right there. I love it. Retargeting the photon cannon manually to target fire down a drone. Not happening though. At the same time, those Lynx, okay, they've got across the map and his high ground pylon is super vulnerable. This is one of the reasons why we don't wall with pylons in StarCraft 2 against the Zerg. It's just not a good idea. These Zerglings are so easy. Like, they're so nimble and so easy to get into the base. It's, yeah, what's the advantage, right? Like, why would you not go pylon over here and then... you know, the 2 big structures as part of the wall together with like an adept? It would make so much more sense. Anyways, Zerglings right now have finished up link speed as well, and this is an absolute disaster right now. Haas cannot plug that wall once again, and he just instantly calls GG. Alrighty, so final match of this particular series is on 2,000 atmospheres. Are we gonna build another forge? Speaking of forges, before Haas started cannon rushing pretty much every single person out there, most of the time when players would go for a cannon rush, they would build a pylon and then add on a forge, and they would basically make as many photon cannons as possible on the other side of the map, right? I don't know if Haas was the very first one to do this, but he was the very first player I ever personally saw do this, where he goes for a gateway regardless, then he scouts with that same probe, and then when he gets to the other side of the map and he sees his opponent went for a hatch first, he still adds on a forge at that point. So it's a relatively late forge, but you can go for a much quicker cyber core, which makes those follow-ups into either like a Stargate or a Robo or a Twilight so much more powerful, right? If you go for a forge first, and then you cannon rush your opponent, and then you finally add on a gateway and a cyber core and then everything else, Zerg has like 5 minutes of breathing room, or at the very least it feels like 5 minutes. It's not great. But anyways, once again, Blind not really too concerned about it. He could go for a 12 pool. I think a 12 pool would be really good. But anyways, he's just going to go for a 16 hatch, 18 gas, and then probably a 17 supply spawning pool. So hatch first, once again, scouted. What are we going to do? All right, we're just going to go for a Nexus. All right. We've got ourselves a standard start, it seems. Blido, not entirely convinced that that's the case. Does leave the Overlord over here, as well as a drone. This drone just scouting for cannon rushes. Haas right now playing to his image as well. He even builds a pylon. He doesn't have a forge. He's not cannon rushing. He's just trying to trigger more drones to be pulled. It's exactly what happens. Bly at this point, so he sees that it's... oh god, okay. Yeah, he sees that it's only 1 pylon. Okay. So he does call the bluff here and eventually return those workers. But I love this. Haas This is crazy, okay? Bear with me. But Haas is playing a strategy game. I know. Isn't that wild? Crazy, dude. Anyways, Cybercore right now spotted as well. Haas, hello. Where's that pylon? Alright. I guess faking a pylon on the other side of the map. It did cost, obviously, resources there, so it made his build ever so slightly less clean. Either way, he does start up a gateway unit right now. Adept is coming up. Probe is going back home. We just have a relatively normal... a relatively normal start, although Haas does once again go for a forge very quickly. Now, I think this timing on the forge doesn't indicate any sort of cheese. I think this is just for very quick +1 melee? Or like +1 ground weapons? I don't know, man. We'll see. Third hatchery gets planted down as well for the Zerg. Link speed does start up. So there's the sentry again. Adept currently going across, but upon seeing the links on the other side of the map, it decides to go back. Now, wonderful little move right there by Haas. 3 Zerglings actually are quite a scary amount of units for just a single sentry. So that pylon is basically planted down perfectly at the correct time. Yeah, so he's just going to go for the +1 ground weapons. Okay, so picture this, right? Unupgraded Zerglings versus unupgraded Zealots. Normally, it takes one of those Zealots 3 attacks. So it attacks his left hand, right hand, left hand, right? It takes the Zealot 3 attacks to kill 1 Zergling. However, if they have +1 ground weapons done, and they're still going up against unupgraded carapaced Zerglings, which you don't really get early on as a Zerg player anyway, it takes them only 2 hits to kill a Zergling. Now, that difference is huge. So it goes from 3 hits to 2 hits. Just for, like, 1 single upgrade, right? It obviously also benefits all the other ground weapons or all the other ground units here for the Protoss player. But maybe that's why we're going to go for this upgrade so early on. There is also a Twilight Council. So if he once again decides to go for the charge upgrade, I'm pretty sure it's just going to be mass Zealots. What are we going to build? Yep, it is going to be charge. Okay. So a probe did move on over towards the 3rd base as well to see if there was maybe like a Zergling there. Is he gonna go for a... Is he really gonna go for a base? Okay, so Blythe does scout this, by the way. Great little bit of scouting. He does have a Stalker out, but the Stalker actually over in the natural to try and maybe prevent this one from going in instead. 2 Adepts over here trying to get some work done too. Can I get 1 more drone? They can. So that's 3 work kills here in total, although... Maybe they can get a 4th one, although I think these... Hello, can we target that one at least? Okay, a little bit sloppy. So there's a Robo right now too. He's still mining gas, which is also a little bit weird. So I've seen a lot of varieties where you go for like 32 probes and then just 8 gateways with charge and +1, but... Anyways, Blythe right now, also really, really under-droned. He was sitting at like 32 workers himself there for a second. Probably thinking of that same build that I was thinking of. So if you go for 32 workers as Protoss, there's a Dark Shrine right now as a follow-up. You can build all of this and then support 8 Gateway Zealot production as long as you pull the probes out of gas. So I think that Blythe may have been a little bit concerned for that one too. He is powering out more drones right now. Dark Shrine is coming up. Still only 2 gases here, though, for our Protoss. Okay, so this 3rd Nexus, are we actually gonna mine from it? Are we, like, he is adding on, yeah, he is adding on additional probes. It's only 4 gateways so far, and he's not actually going for, he's not going for a Prism first either, even though he is going for a Dark Shrine. I hope I do a decent job explaining, like, how a lot of this makes no sense, but it does make sense. Like, Haas is playing the meta and the opponent, and not so much, like, what is considered to be the quote-unquote best move. There's a lot of tricks up this man's sleeve, man. Like, he knows what the opponent is looking for and what kind of info he's gathering, and then he's playing into that fantasy that the Zerg has created for the Protoss player, and then, you know, he does the exact opposite a little. It's very confusing. So there's finally a Prism. Dark Shrine is done. Normally, if you go for a Dark Shrine, you try and get those DTs in as quickly as possible. Instead, he just warps them in over at the 3rd base, and now, I don't know. Are we gonna go like Archon Zealot Immortal Prism? I think that's it. I think that's it. So a couple Zerglings over here as well. At the same time, by the way, Blythe's going for the Roaches as well as that Baling Nest. He's got himself a good amount of workers right now. I really like this amount that he's currently got. I think with the spine crawler here and the amount of roaches, these zealots really shouldn't be able to get too much work done. Nah, that's way too many roaches. Sentry. We wanted to get the sentry. Good force fields, man. Beautiful force fields once again here by the Protoss player. Although, yeah, sometimes these battles are just numbers. A couple of probes ended up getting killed there, but not as many as the drones. Oh, that's the Dark Templar. Okay, so I backed off for just a second. While that Protoss army is engaging, we have a few Dark Templar heading on over towards the natural and the third base. These Dark Templar are such an anti-timing, it makes absolutely no sense. And yet it does. It's like the opposite of a timing attack. I love it. All right. So 2 probes end up getting killed on the other side of the map, but now, dude, honestly, these 2 Dark Templar justify losing that entire group of units. Bly is adding on more drones here as a follow-up. Force field there, not ideal. He does back off once again. Cheeky little army hotkey, if I'm not mistaken, here from Bly, pulling back all the scouting Zerglings as well. 17 drones in total, though, and now all of a sudden, Haas is sitting with full 3-base saturation of his own versus a Zerg who's barely on 2. Still no gas is acquired, though. So Haas is still just sitting on, well, 5 probes here. No, 6 probes here in gas. Adding on more gateways. Going for a 4th nexus on the right side of the map before adding on a 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th gas. He's just going to be super zealot heavy. Banelings are going to be part of this Zerg army very soon, though. So Centrifugal Hooks is currently coming up, and that, well, is pretty fantastic. Now, this is sloppy. Can he kill it? Oh my god, that force field was clutch. There's 2 more immortals on the back of this. A couple of zealots here sacrificing themselves. What is going on right now, though? I guess he's once again trying to create a distraction there with his main army. A couple of queens right now actually taking a lot of damage, too. 10 additional workers were just killed, though, by these zealots. 2 zealots ferried now apparently on over towards the 3rd base. There is still that spine crawler, but spine crawler doesn't reach all the way towards the left side of that mineral line. Roaches eventually will clean all of this up, and Haas obviously still making probes, still adding on more and more economy. Haas seems like the absolute worst player to play against, man. Like, imagine you're playing a tournament for StarCraft 2, you make it past the first 3 rounds or so, and then you see your next opponent is Haas, and you're like, oh god. Now I actually need to, like, think and play and, like, do everything at once. He seems like one of the worst opponents to go up against. Generally speaking, at the tippity top of the skill level, the best Protoss, or sorry, the best Zerg players in the world will be able to shut him down pretty hard. And it makes these strategies look pretty foolish. But my god, pretty much everyone else struggles against it. How many zealots are we on? Man, these immortals are plowing through these roaches so hard. He is giving up the immortals, though, I think. The immortals also gain a ton of additional damage, by the way, from those upgrades. Okay, there you go. 18 additional Zerglings, though, or drones, rather, have gone down. Main base now in a little bit of trouble, too. 3rd base also in a little bit of trouble. Yep, that hatchery gets killed. That hatchery gets killed. Bly now forced to go for an all-in. What are we gonna do? He's gone for the tunneling claws. He's gone for the burrow upgrade. He's still not done, by the way. There's still an immortal in there, too. Hatchery got planted down once again, but he's just... Haas is Zerging his Zerg opponent. Like, Zerg is normally the one that trades inefficiently because they have better economy. There's another hatchery going down. Zealots charging from the main base down that ramp as well. I think eventually Zerg should be able to stabilize, but the problem is that I do not see any way in which Zerg... Well, I don't think he's going to stabilize either. He's got to kill the Prism. No, not even that. Yeah, I don't see any way in which Bly could ever clean up 4 bases of the Protoss.